Hello, Internet, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
And this is Unpopular Culture, and today we're going to be talking about what, in my opinion, is the best conference of E3 2015, and that was Bethesda's.
Yeah, we're going to skip all the other ones because they were very lackluster, to say the least.
Xbox's was alright. That was pretty good. They talked about backwards compatibility. They had some Fallout 4 stuff. Sony's wasn't very good at all, except they had some good reveals like Final Fantasy, which I'm not a fan of, but I get why that's a big deal. But Bethesda's, by far, won.
Which is weird, because it's just a production company. It's not like...
It's not a console developer,
yeah,
It's not one of the big three, but...
I can't imagine why they won, but they destroyed it.
So before we actually talk about Fallout, which is obviously why everyone is here and why everyone saw the conference, we're going to talk about some of the other games that they talked about, because it wasn't just Fallout 4 conference, it was the Bethesda conference, so I think it's fair to give a little bit of time to the other games and talk about our feelings on those.
So it looks like they're working on another Doom title, just called Doom at this point. I don't know if they're going to have a subtitle or whatever. It looks like a standard but very beautiful first-person shooter with all the classic stuff like health pickups, gratuitous violence, crazy guns. It looks like it's going to be a neat title. I don't know if I'm going to want it, but I understand why people would buy it.
Yeah, it looks like a game from like 10 years ago gameplay-wise, and I'm not saying that as a bad thing. I'm saying that as it looks like a straightforward shooter in hallways and you kill things and you get pickups, but it has wonderful new graphics and animations. So if you're a first-person shooter fan that loves gratuitous blood and violence, this looks like the game for you. So I'd check that out. They also took this time to talk about their new Bethesda.net, something like that. It's going to be their mod community home in the future as they do stuff for Doom and presumably Fallout. I would say I'm a little worried about this because of their recent paid mods fiasco, but they didn't really mention any of that. I think they were kind of tiptoeing around it, so I don't know how that's going to be implemented in the future. But I would keep an eye out for that. As for now, I'll stick with like Nexus mods and their system, but it might be a thing to look for in the future.
As far as any mod things are concerned, if I was going to pay for something, I'd want it to be a donate button.
Yeah,
because a lot of them do not stand up to the standards that you should expect out of paying for something.
Like, look, guys, it's the 7,000th Master Sword we put into Skyrim. Anyway. The next game was Battle Cry, and the only thing that I thought of when I saw this is, ooh, this looks a lot like Team Fortress 2, and it's basically a Team Fortress 2 ripoff, so if you're into that, you might like this. And I'm not saying that in a negative thing. It looks like a solid, competitive game like Team Fortress.
I'm sure it'll have a nice following, and they'll probably make a second one, and it'll be a thing for a little bit, and then that'll die, like everything else.
Yeah, but basically Team Fortress 2 with swords, so if you're into that, check that out. If not, go play Team Fortress 2. Get some hats, whatever.
Yeah. The next title they mentioned was Dishonored 2, and they're shipping that with a remastered version of the first Dishonored, which critically acclaimed and underselling, if I remember correctly. Like, not a lot of people bought it and played, but it's always, anyone who did play it, including yourself, has said it's like really impressive game.
It's a great game. It's a super solid game. The mechanics are great. The magic system's great. The combat's really good. The sneaking is amazing. It's one of the best stealth games I've ever played.
Just really short, right?
Yeah, the only problem is that it's a very short game, but I think that was a budgetary issue, especially because it was new IP and it was untested. But I would definitely suggest everyone, especially the Steam sales going on right now. I have no idea if it's on sale, but it wouldn't shock me, especially after the announcement. If you can, I would suggest go checking it out because it's a great stealth game. And the sequel I'm definitely going to be checking out because they're really good at creating this new world, and they're really good at creating fun, stealth, Hitman type environments. So if you're into that kind of thing, definitely check that out. Then we got to the part in the conference where I feel like everyone in the audience almost collectively groaned, but they gave a little bit of a clap to be polite. They talked about Elder Scrolls Online.
No one wants this.
No one cares about Elder Scrolls Online. The MMO market is already...
It's drying up.
It's drying up. WoW isn't what it was 5-7 years ago.
MOBAs are taking over. It's all about League and Dota at this point. And looks like Blizzard's new title, Heroes of the Storm or something like that.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone's all that interested in it. If you like it, that's great, it's fine. I just, not a fan in any way, shape, or form.
And they also had a card game that was pretty much Hearthstone, but Elder Scrolls. Also not interested in it. I'm sure it'll have a cult following with some people, because those games always typically get that group. Not my thing.
Nah, not me either, but, it'll be fine. I'm sure it'll be fine for what it is. It's just not the kind of thing I'm interested in.
And now that we're through all that, we get to the meat, the big time, the one thing that every single person is talking about after E3, and that is the Fallout 4 presentation, which blew me the fuck away.
Yeah, this was great. Todd Howard came out, and Todd Howard, always right. Love listening to this guy talk. I remember back when Fallout 3 was announced and he was talking about it. Always a very genuine sounding guy, and certainly he's the see those mountains, you can climb those guy.
Yeah.
But it always seems like he's always very interested in the games he makes and wants to make games that he would want to play. So I always like hearing from him because he seriously is one of the few people in the industry that I respect as a person. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, he seems like he seems actually very interested, and he doesn't just seem like he's there to be a shill.
Yeah.
He seems genuinely excited about the work that they're doing.
Yeah.
And when he starts out, and he's got some stills and some concept art going on, and it gives you a lot of insight into what they were thinking as they were making the game. It also gives you some ideas on maybe the different types of stuff we'll encounter in the new game, because while it is Fallout and there's a lot of familiar stuff, it all looks brand new.
Yeah.
Like, the ghouls are totally different. Even the power armor looks different, even though that's iconic. The super mutants are really cool. The guns are revamped, and the environment is totally redone. So it's just really cool to see all that concept art. Plus, I'm a fan of that sort of thing.
I know, I
like
like it.
development sort of sneak peek stuff.
Yeah, it looks really cool, and I'd like to rewatch this video later once the game comes out and kind of compare and say, oh yeah, I've seen that in the game. Just one of those interesting things. So the first gameplay segment came up, and this was a pretty substantial part of the entire presentation. I think about 30 minutes or so of the entire Bethesda conference was devoted to this. The first thing we saw was character customization, which, if you've ever played a Bethesda game before, is usually fairly clunky and doesn't look very good because
Skyrim was the best they've ever done with it. And
Yeah.
it was pretty good. They had some nice sliders and stuff, but Fallout has always been, every character looks pretty much the same.
Yeah.
But wow.
Yeah, the character models now are vastly improved. All the graphics of this game look so much better, and we had that trailer a couple of weeks back. I think that trailer, if anything, undersold how this game looks, because I looked at that trailer and I thought, it's definitely better than New Vegas and Fallout 3, but I was hoping for better. But actually seeing it in motion looks way better than I thought it would.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, certainly there are games that do graphics better, but Bethesda games have never been about graphics. They've been about creating an interactive and interesting world. So I'm actually pretty impressed with what they've been able to do, especially with the restrictions of the engine they're working on.
Yeah, and it's really cool scene, too, because usually the starting things, the catalyst for starting your journey out of a vault and into the wasteland is kind of meh. It's always, like, in Fallout, it was a little interesting because you were a baby and you did stuff, and Liam Neeson was your dad, and that was cool. New Vegas, I felt, was shit. I didn't like the beginning of that. It was really annoying, and old guy trying to give me a psychoanalysis. But this one, it's just you and your wife, or I guess your husband, depending on which sex you decide to play, because you can pick either of them.
Luckily.
And you switch back and forth between the mirror to decide who you want to play with, and you can customize both of them, and they'll create a baby that mixes the two of them depending on how you make them, and it just is so expansive and it looks awesome.
That was a very Todd Howard moment in that presentation. It was like, we dynamically make a baby out of the two people.
We recorded every fucking name that's ever existed so that you can be said aloud, which is cool. I like that. So I'm gonna be probably Jake for the first time in a Fallout game just because I think it's cool.
I'm gonna try and be Hugo. They probably have Hugo. That's a name people have. See that baby? You can climb it. So after you get out of the character creation segment, you get a part where he's walking around the house, and you might notice that this house is very clean because the game starts out pre-war, which is very interesting. They've never done anything like that before, even though, of course, they've only done Fallout 3 in New Vegas, and even New Vegas they only published. But this is a very interesting place to take the story. You'll also notice that the character speaks for the first time in the Bethesda title.
Very interesting.
Yes. This actually came out in a leak about a couple of years ago. I think Kotaku actually came out with a leak of the casting call for this character, basically.
Sure.
And people were very on the fence about it, and I can say I was on the fence too. I really wasn't sure because Fallout and things like Elder Scrolls have always been very good at being a role-playing game, a true one where you create your own character and kind of define the personality as you play, because it's voiceless. You put the voice in your head, essentially.
Yeah.
This, however, as it is voiced, kind of has a preset personality, although certainly I assume the different speech options are going to have different intonations and stuff. I assume if you're a very evil character, he'll sound a little bit different than if you have a very nice character.
Right.
But since I've thought about it more since the presentation, I can kind of understand this as a trade-off to making sure the story is more solid and creating characters that we care about, because in the previous Fallout games, that hasn't really been the case.
At all. That's been the weakest point of any of the Fallout, or the Skyrim, really. I didn't give a shit about any of that stuff, really.
Hopefully that'll be rectified this time with the voice acting, because there is a trade-off. You're not allowing the character as much freedom to create their own character. That's a fact. But as long as you create a very interesting character and create a good narrative, I'm okay with that. I could welcome that change if that's the case.
And they did say it was 13,000 lines of dialogue per protagonist, being male and female.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of dialogue. I don't think that's there. I'm sure you get more out of non-voiced, but still, I feel like if the quality's there, it's better than having just a bunch of options.
Yeah. So, next what happens is he goes to the door, and this is where we get our special selection thing.
That was really neat. I like that.
That's a good way to do it.
It wasn't, I don't know, it was contrived, and you expect it, and it's going to happen, but it had more of a novelty to it than
the special book or the
special book or the grippy thing in New Vegas. And the guy that is at the door has been a voice actor in all the Fallout titles that I can remember, and he's usually the old guy. And it sounds like he got better at acting.
I don't know what happened between then and now, but he's doing a much better job, unless they got someone who's a sound-alike.
You know what, though? I think it also helps that the character model, it's emoting with its face a lot more.
Yeah, the eyebrows move correctly and stuff.
Yeah. The mouth is better matched, and he kind of uses his hands instead of just standing there stoically.
Yeah.
And so I think just the power of the new systems, as well as new processing and computers and stuff, is really helping them make voiced work for a Bethesda game.
Yeah. And before someone comes in like, PC Master Race, we know, we're talking about comparing them to the last generation. Yeah. Yes, it's still not as powerful as a gaming PC. We get it. I also play on PC. Shut the fuck up. You are annoying. So then we get some gameplay post-war, and they don't really go into the story as to how you survive, except you go into a vault, and you don't really need to. I'd rather they keep that for the game. I don't really want to be spoiled.
I don't need to see the first 15 minutes straight of gameplay for this kind of thing, because I want to be surprised by it. But first thing you notice when he comes out of the vault is how fucking good it looks in third person.
Yeah, so much better.
Oh my god, and the vault suit is new and different.
Looks more like from Fallout 1 and Fallout 2 as opposed to the baggy Fallout 3 style they went with, which I like the Fallout 1 and 2 style better, especially with this not new engine, but I like it better that it looks spandexy.
Yeah, and it feels so natural. Like when he moves, his musculature is moving underneath the clothing, it feels like, and his steps don't feel glidey in third person like they always have, and it just looks like you can actually play it in third person and enjoy it, rather than you do it just because kind of sometimes you're bored of looking at the reticle in the middle of your screen.
Also, sprinting is a thing, which I kind of expected after Skyrim, but I'm glad. I like games like that to have a sprint button. It makes sense. And in case you're curious, sprinting works by taking away from AP that you would normally use for VATS. So our character, whatever you happen to name him, runs into his robot butler, Wadsworth, and we get our first look at the dialogue system, which is
very, very Mass Effect.
Yeah, definitely. You look at it and you go, that's pretty much the Mass Effect system,
goddamn,
but mapped
that works.
to the face.
It just works.
It looks all right. I'm a little concerned as to the fact that they don't have everything written out as to what you're going to say, which it kind of worked in Mass Effect, but that was a different kind of game. I prefer to see what exactly I'm about to say.
I guess, yeah. We'll see how it goes. I don't think it's going to really take away from it that much, and I think it'll improve the speed of things like going to a shopkeeper or something. Instead of having to scroll all the way to the bottom and let me see your wares, it'll be like, yeah, we've already talked about this shit. I don't need to ask Moira Brown about how I don't want to jump into a fucking landmine every goddamn time I meet her until I do the mission.
That actually, that I've been playing that, and that is a pain in the ass.
I
so
know.
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just hoping that, because it looks like there's 4 options, I'm hoping, and Jake and I have talked about this, that there's a certain button you can press to get more options, or it kind of expands upon stuff. Like here, there's a button that looks yellow, so that clearly is either a speech check maybe, or maybe expands more options. I don't know, but I really hope that we're not limited to 4 choices for every conversation.
And they didn't show you any of the times when there's a different color on the speech options.
Yeah, so I
think that's on purpose. It looks like they're gonna be a little bit different.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I have faith in them. They've always put out really good stuff, and this has been the weakest part, and it already seems a lot stronger than it has been. So I'm looking forward to it very, very much.
Honestly, worst case, everyone hates it, and I'll get a mod to make him silent again, and that's what it'll be. I'm like, okay,
I'll
good
probably
try.
enjoy it. I don't really give a shit. Like it didn't take away from Commander Shepard at all.
No, well,
in my
that's-
opinion,
that's
I get it. He's a
different
different character,
Yeah.
and he's very focused on one thing. And Fallout's much more malleable, but at the same time, it was cool. And then next we get Dog Meat, or just the dog, depending on what you want to name him. The iconic companion in Fallout games.
Which is always funny to me because I think I've only used him like once ever. But
I
yeah,
only
it
used
is
him
a
once
thing.
in Fallout 3, and then I was like, I'm really annoyed by you. But this Dog Meat looks fucking cool. I mean, it's a dog, but I mean, like, the way it works, he seems much more fluid, and he attacks things and kind of gnarls at him, and he'll grab a leg and yank it or something.
It looks like it incapacitates people a little bit more.
It looks like it's not just biting and inflicting damage by clipping through it. It looks like it actually is interacting with pieces of them, and they ragdoll in very nice ways, and it's attacking a mole rat at some point, and that looks actually like it's a dog viciously attacking another animal. It's working, and it's actually helping. And you can issue it commands and stuff, which is kind of a thing I won't do.
I can't imagine a situation where I'd ever
go get that wrench slower than I could go walk over and get it. Yeah,
it's just a thing that they show for the demo. But I mean, I guess it's good that it's a thing that you can do. I just can't imagine when you would want to do that, unless there are specific places in the game that you can't fit into, but the dog can, and they want you to use it in that way, which maybe they will. I don't know. That would seem a little bit annoying, but I get why they do it.
This is our first real look at a combat situation, though, from all the different viewpoints that you can have.
Yeah, it looks way better. It looks more fluid. The kickback from the gun looks more realistic. It doesn't feel like it feels like, how do I explain this? When you're playing Fallout 3, you hit the trigger and the gun kind of goes back.
It goes pew, but this one feels like it's got like like you're going to hurt the thing on the other end of it.
It feels like the projectile is actually coming from the gun, as opposed to in the other Fallouts where it feels like, oh, well, yeah, you point and click and it inflicts damage or not, but it's not really coming from the gun. It's just, it's a game.
Yeah.
This feels a little bit more like a real gun shooting a real bullet, doing damage.
And also VATS, very interesting things about this, and it's twofold. They changed it, not entirely, but it's definitely far different. It doesn't stop time anymore. It does like a bullet time thing, so you don't have forever to just fucking sit there, which I like, because that was a really it took the pace of the game way down, especially in situations.
You could exploit it too. And I'll admit to this too.
Oh yeah,
in the game, even if I was out of AP, I would go into that and then exit out real quick and mash the right trigger. So when I came out, it was aimed right at it. But you can't do this here because they're still moving, even though it's slow.
Yeah. And I really like that. But also, a very interesting thing is you can execute a critical, and the bar fills up at the bottom. I assume it's due to successful attacks.
Probably.
Without VATS or something. Or maybe it's also in VATS. I don't know how it works, and I'm sure there's plenty of perks that help you towards that. But when you just being able to pick when you have a critical, and obviously it doesn't improve your chances of hitting, but it does improve. It just lets you pick when you're going to do it. Is very neat feature, and it goes into this bullet time following thing. And if you kill it, it's awesome. I don't know. It just looked really cool, and they do a few critical shots throughout the. They'll do a montage later, and it looks like it's really, really effective. And that's such a cool way to do VATS. I'd never thought about doing that.
Yeah. The next section, Todd talks a little bit about the new Pip-Boy, and the new Pip-Boy is really interesting. I like it a lot more than the last one. I don't know if the idea is going to be that it's like a prototype that you got your hands on, because it looks so much different than the ones we've seen in the other games. Yeah. Even like 1 and 2, which are obviously distinct from 3.
It's still a Pip-Boy. Like there's no mistaking it, but it's definitely different. And it clips onto the arm, and he kind of snaps it on, and it's adjustable, it looks like, or whatever. And it doesn't come with a glove. Yeah. And it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't look like you're stuck in it. Yeah, it just feels like an accessory. It feels like something useful instead of this thing that you have to have.
Yeah, and it has like animations on it, which is something you never see in the Fallout universe on the computers. It has these 3D animations, still in green, old computer style, but like it's a rotating, it looks good. They show some of the menus. Radio has its own tab now. No skills tab, which we were talking about.
Interesting.
We were talking about earlier in the special section when they were talking to that guy and picking their special. It doesn't mention skills at all, and here we don't have a skills menu. So clearly they're doing something different with skills.
Looks like they're going Skyrim with it.
Yeah, where the skills improve the more you use them, as opposed to assigning skill points. And also, if you see in some of the gameplay, they off to the side when you have notifications, it mentions ranked up to level 2 guns or requires level 2 repair. So it looks like instead of, 1 through 100, it might be like 1 through 10 on all the skills or 1 through 5.
I think that's okay, and having a perk tree on your way around
that's fine.
I think as long as they do it in a less clunky way than they did Skyrim, because I did not like the trees in that.
The constellation deal,
I get the constellation thing, but it was slow, and you kind of had to aim the stick, and sometimes you'd miss.
Yeah, it wasn't very good. I like the idea, but the execution wasn't very good.
I think if you just had like a tree where you could just go up and down and left and right, and it was very grid-like.
Yeah.
With these neat cards that have Pip-Boy stuff on them, I think would be cool.
Yeah, that's fine.
I always trust the Fallout art style. I don't think this is going to be clunky like Skyrim. No. Skyrim doesn't have a personality per se.
It's just it's fantasy-ish.
Yeah, and I guess I mean the Elder Scrolls in general, not just Skyrim.
Yeah,
but,
I know what you mean.
But Fallout has the personality. Like it's always going to be a very similar experience in different places.
Yeah. The next part is just effing insane. I'm so shocked that they put this in.
By the way, Jakey Poo, this guy right here, your boy, called this and the next thing.
Yeah, base building. So you can scrap stuff from the environment, like tires or buildings, whatever, in these certain areas, and then you can build your own bases. Totally customize them, make your own houses, make your own defenses. People will come and live there if it's successful. They'll start trade routes. You can do trade routes between your settlements. It looks super intensive, and it's really impressive that they were able to do this.
It looks like a mix between like all the like Minecraft, Rust, Little Big Planet. It seems like they took all these build your own thing engines and kind of made it work, and it works. They show it in real time as you do it, and it just works quickly, seamlessly, and efficiently, and it doesn't look like it's a pain in the ass to do, which it can be in some games. And there's terminals, and you can customize it a bunch of different ways. You got to protect it against raiders, which I think is wonderful, because the thing about the different settlements in all the Fallout universe games is there's never danger when you're there, even though they talk about, we got fucked up the other day by raiders, I'm glad you're here now, but it never happens because it's a totally different environment. But these are like outside, not loading time buildings. And so I don't know, I think it's interesting, and I think it'll add a lot of depth, and I'll be doing this a ton because you could Todd Howard said that you could do it in several locations around the map, and maintain all of them. And also, the better your places are, people will come to live there, and they give better items and stuff in shops. And it looks just really fucking awesome.
Even if I don't do it to build the villages and stuff, I'm definitely going to use it to build my own base, because I think that's something that in like a survival, it's the end of the world game, you should definitely be able to do. And I'd love to build my own like super fortress and put all my collectibles for my missions and stuff there. Super cool.
It's so much better than my Megaton house or whatever happens in New Vegas.
Yeah.
And then we get the next part of the thing that I called, and this comes in two parts: weapons and armor modding, which I wanted it so bad, and we talked about it in Kenneth number 1, if you remember, and I was pretty much just a pipe dream. I did not think that they would pull this off, but they did it exactly how I said it, plus.
So if you remember in New Vegas, they had some weapon modding, but it was very restrictive. Maybe every weapon had like 2 mods you could put on it.
I don't think you made the mods, did you?
No, and you just bought them or whatever, and it was just, we'll put a silencer on this or a scope on that, and it was still the same weapon. It was basically just upgraded. This, however, there's over 700 mod pieces, which is fucking amazing.
And they show you go through this and how you make a mod, and they use the example of a scope. You have all the miscellaneous stuff around the Fallout universe that everyone knows about. So you have like scrap metal, wrenches, wonder glue, globes, toy cars, stuff like that. You take the pieces out of those things and use them towards whatever you want to make, and you just do it at a workbench. So it actually gives you this kind of different dynamic about how you go about getting not just loot, but also the shit that's left over from the people that used to live in the area before the bombs fell. And it has this scrap, very wasteland feel to it, and the modding is just so extensive. And Hugo's not kidding when he says 700. they go through a litany of different mods, and they take a laser pistol and make it into a fucking laser sniper rifle.
It looks awesome. I love that you can take the weapons and it's customizable. If you want a laser weapon to be one way and be a sniper rifle, you can, or it can be like a shotgun or an automatic rifle, and you can change, the butts of the guns or the scopes or the muzzles, anything. You can change fucking everything about these guns.
It's so awesome.
And it looks great. I'm really excited to do that. I'm most excited because these games always build on top of each other and improve on the things from the past. The next Elder Scrolls that comes out, can you imagine the legendary weapons you're going to be able to make? Like make a sword with a specific hilt and with a specific blade and like emblazoned with certain runes or something that maybe gives it
looks
special
cool.
powers.
And the next thing they show is power armor modification, which is fucking incredible. And it also looks like power armor is going to be a much more pronounced part of the game as far as it's a big deal that you have it and not just you just get it all the time.
Yeah.
It looks like you got to build it up from this skeleton of power armor, and you maybe get some basic shit right at the beginning. Because I showed that in the Xbox presentation, actually. They showed a little bit more power armor stuff, and I think it's the first mission that you get power armor.
It looks like the tutorial,
and
basically.
He pops a core into the back of it, and it opens up like Iron Man, and gets into it and kills Deathclaws and shit, and it looks cool. But the customization on it looks like you can paint it differently and make it your own thing, which is so fantastic. And you can mix and match. It doesn't have to be symmetrical. And I'm actually going to want to use power armor, because power armor before, it was just kind of there. Yeah. And you're like, it's like 45 pounds, but it gives you some strength, so maybe it's a payoff. I don't know. It's good. You have way too much of it later on, and you're like, It
looks like in this one it's definitely going to be scarce, and you have a set that you work on, and it looks like there's going to be some sort of cooldown, and you can maybe call it, or you have to.
Because if on the HUD there's like this dial, and it looks like it's got a counter, and it never really goes down. But when you look at all the other things, that's the only thing that's not really a familiar thing.
Yeah, like one looks like a health thing, one looks like a damage thing,
AP.
One looks like an AP thing. So this one is probably your cooldown for how long you can wear the armor without it going dead or whatever. It looks really cool, and the mission they showed it on was like there's a death claw, so you put it on and fuck up this death claw, and that makes a lot of sense. I could see that where you're, you have your standard armor that you're wearing, whatever.
But then
shit going down. Need my power armor, and then
jetpack though.
Jetpack power armor.
Come on.
You can't not.
Right?
Who can
and
not?
They showed it in third person, and when he lands on the ground, he hits the ground, his knees buckle, he comes down, stands back up, holds the minigun, and shoots it. It looks like it has a lot of impact. It looks like it even looks like when you're in it, it moves differently and feels like you're in power armor.
Yeah.
And it's making these heavy sounds, and it feels imposing, and it just looks like they nailed it.
Mm-hmm. They, after the whole power armor thing, they talk about armor and stuff more. The armor, finally, thanks to more RAM that we have on the systems. Layered. So now it looks like you can have an outfit, like, for instance, the Vault uniform, and then over that you have, I believe, 5 pieces of armor you can layer, and each piece can be different. So you have, like, left arm, left leg, right leg, torso, head, feet, which is awesome. And I don't know if they all count as armor. Like, I can't imagine feet are going to apply much armor, but who knows?
I'm sure it'll add an agility bonus or something like that, and they'll probably have different. But also, they only show like partial leather armor on the right side and a few screenshots of his right arm. But there's a screenshot of the Pip-Boy later on where he's cycling through, actually showing the peripheral Pip-Boy edition stuff with your mobile phone, and he's going through the menu, and they have a bunch of different like fiberglass armor and stuff. So it looks like you can mix and match whatever you want, which is, again, I love the asymmetrical nature of Wasteland cobbling. Yeah, I just love that. And so it looks like it's going to be a very unique experience every time you play through. And I'm just really excited about that part, because the worst part about Fallout games, in my opinion, has been, well, once you get pretty much, like in Fallout 3, leather armor is pretty much where you're at, and then power armor. Yeah. And it's like there's not a lot of custom stuff going on.
Yeah, you also see you can like fly, or at least ride in a vertibird, which is like a helicopter. So that's cool. I don't know how often or how you get to do that. Looks like a Brotherhood of Steel thing though. So
he throws a flare at one, or a smoke flare thing. I don't know.
So it looks like you're going to be working with the Brotherhood of Steel again, or maybe you get to choose who you work with. Maybe it's them versus the Institute.
Both.
Who knows? And then they just finish it with some combat, and you see a couple different armor stuff or some outfits. It all looks very good. All the animations look very smooth. The textures obviously look quite a bit better than they used to.
And it looks like just the perfect Fallout game so far.
It looks great. The only thing I'm even a little bit worried about is the voiced protagonist. Even that I'm warming up to. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I'm sure when it comes out, we'll talk about it. And obviously, Kenneth is going to be a thing eventually if you watch our Kenneth series.
Yeah.
But, yeah, overall, great conference. If I were to compare it to any other E3 conference, it doesn't even make sense to compare them. Because, especially if you look at something like Ubisoft's conference with Aisha Tyler, terrible. There's a video this year. I was waiting for their cringe moment, and there were a lot of them, but the one they had where she kept calling a thing a meme that wasn't a meme, and she clearly doesn't know what the word meme means. It was really bad. But yeah, other conferences feel very pandering, and this conference didn't feel pandering. Obviously,
it felt like, hey, check out this cool shit we made. Aren't we excited?
And obviously, it's an advertising thing.
For sure.
But they're not talking down to their audience. They don't treat people who play video games like a bunch of 15-year-old jackasses drinking monsters in their mom's basement. They're like, no, a lot of people enjoy these games. Let's talk like people. Let's talk about how much this game is going to be cool. And I really like that about Bethesda and Todd Howard specifically.
So I think that's it.
Yeah.
We just I'm gonna buy the game probably for PS4. I think I'm getting a PS4. It looks like Hugo wants it for PC because he's got a pretty sweet gaming rig.
Mods for consoles now, by the way. Did I mention that?
On Xbox.
They've said they're going to do it on PlayStation if they can, but since Xbox is closer to Windows 10, it's easier to do it there.
It's probably.
But they're gonna try, so we'll see. Either way, I'm gonna get it for PC and play mods on there. But you get the idea. So I think that's it. Check out our Fallout series where we're doing a passive, non-combat playthrough with Kenneth. I'm sure if there's any big news about Fallout, we'll talk about that again. And we might talk about Fallout 4 a little bit on that series if we get the chance.
That's just because we're geeked about it.
Yeah, so thanks everyone. Until next time, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake.
This has been Unpopular Culture.